Welcome to Typescript video tutorial series. Our end goal is to learn how to apply Typescript, including package setup, code structure, security, web design using EJS, and much more. This is a roadmap from zero to hero that will enhance the way of traditional coding into well-structured development. So now, without any further ado, let's get started. What is Typescript? It's a programming language that makes it easier to write, cross-platform, application scale, JavaScript that runs in any browser or in any host. It's a superset of JavaScript which primarily provides optional, static typing, classes, and interfaces. To start with, we'll initialize first our node and install Express and a test script. Let's type npm init -y. Let's clear this up. By the way, I'm using VS Code. As long as you have Node.js, it doesn't matter. Any IDE should do. So after npm init, let's start first by installing our first package, that is the Express. So let's start with npm install Express, and then we'll save that. After install our Express, let's scan first our package.json. So from here, our currently version is Express 4.17.1. So starting from here, this is our first package. Now, let's create our entry point by setting up our entry file. So to do that, let's start with creating a new folder. Then from here, going to set up our entry, that is the index.js. So notice here, I just start with Node.js. So don't you worry, later on, after we compile, we'll convert our Node.js file into TypeScript. So for now, let's start first creating our entry point setup. So let's begin with, need to type const express equals to require express. From here, need to assign that to our AVP. Then let's set up first our port. So by calling our port here, const port. By default, going to set up to port 3000. Then let's set up our app.listener. Then assign that port in here. Then we'll display that in our console log. Let's call our console log. Then we'll assign this one so that this will be served as our dynamic preview. So let's type its server started at http:// localhost and our port. So to call our port, we need to call by calling in curly braces. Rather start with dollar, curly braces, and our port. Let's move this a little closer. Okay, so if this is your first time in running Node, just follow along, because right now we're just applying the basic structure of Node.js. So let's run by calling, but first we need to save this one. Okay, so from here, we need to type Node. Oops. So let's type by calling Node, then call the folder or the location of our entry file. So from here, let's start with source/index and hit enter. Once you display or see this running message here, so that means that our entry point or entry file setup is working. Next step, let's create our basic route, and then we'll forward the settings to our package.json. So let's start. Within here, let's type app.get. From here, let's assign our default route. Then we pass this to our rec and res. This stands for the request and respond. From here, okay, then let's pass that our response to send, and our first report or response here is we're going to name this as hello world. Okay, let's save that. Okay, this will be our default path. Now let's modify our package.json. From here, let's modify our entry point in this section here by replacing source/index. And for our script, let's start with start. Then from here, let's call on our node, then period here, then comma. So what it does is this will forward to our main entry point here by calling this node dot. So let's call that sample by typing npm start. And there you go. So now, as you can see, this one was automatically forward to node dot, so which is our main entry point. So let's check our browser. If you're on VS Code, just simply press Control, then hit or click this URL here. Very good. So right now, our first running code in Node.js is working. So right now, let's proceed with the actual TypeScript presentation or demonstration. So let's move to that. For TypeScript to work, let us install first the TypeScript compiler. So to do that, let's head back to our code. And we need to cancel this one here. Let's clear this up. For TypeScript to work, we should install first this package by typing npm install save -dep Then let's type or say set up here the word TypeScript and hit enter. While waiting for this one, as you notice, we set up a new format in installation. So what it does is we are installing our TypeScript under developer dependency. So this is a different setup. So notice here, you will notice that later on here. Okay, so right now, okay, good. So right now, as you can see, this installed under dev dependencies. So this will separate us between our normal dependencies to our developer dependencies. Okay, so after that, let's clear this up. Okay, so from this point here, let's create first our TypeScript configuration. There's so many ways to do this one. You can use the basic command, but for our starting point here, let's just do the normal, or just the basic creation of file. So from the root, on the point here, let's create a TypeScript configuration. Okay, this should be in JSON format. Okay, from here, if you're doing the basic CLI, you can see a bunch of configurations. But for this demo, I just only simplified those configuration. So I'm going to paste that in here. So let's examine. Okay, you can pause this video while copying all this code here. As you can see, this is the simplified setup that we prepare for this demo. So this configuration will help us compile our TypeScript. Now, aside from TypeScript, we can also install additional for that, which is the one who will, you can say, interpret the code for this code. So we'll just add another package setup from TypeScript, and this is what we call the TS-lint. So let's proceed to that. To begin with, let's move this a little closer. And we're going to install this package by typing npm install save -dev TS-lint. Okay, while waiting, uh, for those who are not familiar with TS-lint, TS-lint is simply, you can say that this is an analysis tool that will alert for any potential code errors whenever you're doing some coding within TypeScript. So this will serve as your, you can say, as an error checking for this one. Okay, good. So after you install the TS-link, the next thing we need to do is we need to create a file for that. So within the root, let's type tslink.json. So take note, it should be on the root section. Now, by default, I'm going to paste this code here. Feel free to pause and copy the code within so that you can follow along. So this is our setup right now. Now this time, once we set up this ts-link.json, the next thing we need to do is we need to update our package.json. So this will take effect by simply assign that in there. So let's set back to our package.json. Okay, from here, let's modify some, okay, this section here under script. So let's start with type with pre-build. And let's call our TS-link dash C TS-link.json minus P and tsconfig.json. Okay, so and let's add dash dash fix. Okay, hope that word is correct. Okay, so this is TS-link minus C, TS-link.json dash P, tsconfig.json, and dash dash fix. Next, we need to set up our build. And let's call our TSC in here. Then let's call our pre-start. And let's call npm run build. So what we're doing is we're set up the compile from the Typescript. So if everything is working or set up very well here, so make sure you need to pause for this video so that you can copy this as to how did I set up this one. So let's start by running, let's clear this up here. Let's start by running npm run start. Okay, cool. So let's examine our error. Notice here we have a bunch of errors right now. Simply because we did not convert yet. So there's no Typescript for this to execute. So to do that, let's head back to our entry file here. Now this time, since we're working with Typescript, let's convert this into Typescript by simply changing the extension path. Instead of .js, it should be .ts. Okay. So upon changing the Typescript, you will realize that we have some bunch of errors right now. So to confirm what are these errors, if these are all compatible with Typescript, let's clear this up here and run npm run start. Okay, within our code, you can see it will state to you the errors within. So let's start with, okay, let's move here. Okay. Okay, click here. So there are errors here. We have the required statement not part of the import statement, and calls to console log are not allowed. So these are the common things here that we need to change, because in Typescript, we will use the proper code in assigning or calling a package and other things. So let's fix that. So from here, let's head back here. instead of calling in this manner, let's convert that into in this manner. So let's start with import express from express. Okay, then we can clear or remove the first line here. So this is the format for the express. Okay, so just to make sure it's everything here. Okay, so next, okay, oh, there's another thing here. Now that we set up the first one, another is we need to fix the next, this next line is no console. So to do that, let's apply the thinning configuration for that, because in some case this console is not recognized in Typescript. So to do that, let's call by / and type pslint colon disable .net or dash next dash line and no console. So what it does is this will bypass the console configuration here. Okay, so that should do. So right now we have some bunch of situation here. So we still that this code here is still not classified or recognized by our Typescript, which means that we need to set up first another package. Now to work with that package, we need to head back, and what we need to do is we need to identify first or analyze what's the required for this is problem. To fix our problem, the next thing we need to know first is we need to assign the right types. In Typescript, very important is we need to install the counterpart of the package that we use in our regular node. So for us to identify these types, we need to know first what's the definition of this type. In Node.js, this is what you call definitely type. So by definition, definitely type is a repository that holds type declaration files. So for 1,000 of JavaScript project is likely using the result of this repo in the form of the npm modules at types/somethings. So right down here is we have an example of these required type, which is right now we're going to apply that in our running code. So whatever you install in your Node.js, always install the counterpart for that, the equivalent definitely type. So this is the types that recognized by Typescript. Okay, so if that's clear, let's proceed to running code. So heading back here, let's insert or set up our definitely type for this project. So since at the beginning we only installed Node.js, so this time let's install the type by simply typing npm install --save -dev. Then here need to call our types. First, I need to call the types for node. And the second one, I'm going to call the types for our express. Should be types. There we go. Okay, so let's check everything. Okay, so if everything's okay, then hit enter. Feel free to pause this video. If there's a bunch of words here, you can pause the video and copy the content. So right now, what we're doing right now is we install the equivalent package for Typescript to supply or to, for this one, this other code here to be recognized by our Typescript. Okay, now let's clear this up. Now, as you can see, Upon install that last installation, notice that our express here and the code here are already gone. So which means the setup that we install is now recognized by our TypeScript. So let's start by checking npm run start. Okay, so seems that there's still a bunch of error here. So let's examine our code. Upon install our last package, which is the types, now that it's asking, our error is there's no input where this configuration to be set. Now there's an error here within the config.json. If you scan that, the config.json, okay, very important that we need to know the source of the compile. So this is the location of the compile TypeScript. So what TypeScript does is it will compile your original code and convert that into the regular JavaScript that is recognizable by TypeScript. So in this section here, we assign that in our distribution here, or this is the out directory. So this is the location, the this dist. So this is the location for that. Now for this to take effect, since we're aiming or running a TypeScript using Node, we need to modify our package.json. So let's head back to our package.json. And then from here, instead of setup in this manner, we need to change that now to this. Okay, so this will be the new location for our compiled TypeScript. So as you can see, so other than that, okay, just maintain with the other code that we set up a while ago. So if you're done setting this up, let's try run again our code. Let's head back there. Okay, let's clear this up. And from here, let's type npm run start. Now, once I hit start here, notice how our distribution border will behave upon starting this. A while ago, upon creating our code, you already noticed that this will be automatic create this folder. So don't you worry, no need to understand why this happened. By simply, it is already within the TS code. So if you check our TS configuration, this is the default output that we are setting up. Okay, whatever, if there's no this folder here, our TypeScript will compile and create this folder automatically. Okay, so let's head back to our index.ts. And then from here, let's start with npm run start, then hit enter. Okay, good. So let's examine. So right now, as you can see, we already overcome those errors. So finally, at this point here, our code is working perfectly, and our TypeScript is already recognized within this code. So let's examine our this folder here. Upon converting this TypeScript file, it will save in this directory. So if we click it here, okay, so you can see this is the equivalent of the TypeScript that we set up a while ago. Okay, very good. Now, for final checking, let's head back to our browser. Then let's reload this page just to make sure. Okay, good. So that's it, guys. Okay, cool. So this time, we managed to run our TypeScript code using, let's move this one here. Okay, this time we managed to convert and run our TypeScript code using the TypeScript compiler. Now, from this point here, we can do a bunch of things by installing our EJS to run or any application that you want. At this point here, we already configured everything. So just take note of the setup that we do a while ago, and everything will be okay. Okay, so from this point here, let's proceed with the next part by installing our EJS. So this is the point where we're going to create our first EJS running code using TypeScript. So let's begin. To run our EJS, we need to stop this first and clear this up. Okay, to run our EJS, we need to install the following. I'm going to install first the normal Node.js package, and these are the npm install. The first one, we need to install the normal EJS, and also going to add that by installing the express EJS layouts. Okay, let's check that for sure. Okay, npm install EJS express EJS layouts. Then hit enter. Okay, if you are familiar with layouts, so this is a combinations package within EJS. And also we're using EJS will be as our default page. So this is the default page that we're going to use. Okay, good. Now, after installing our the basic Node.js, now this time let's going to install the counterpart for that, for the equivalent in TypeScript. So let's head back to this one here, and then I'm going to replace some part here, or add the save -det. Okay, let's install first the @types /EJS and the @types /express EJS layout, and hit enter. Okay, cool. So right now we already installed all the package that we need. So let's examine our package.json. Okay, so right now, as you can see, so this is the setup that we're running package version that we're working right now. So please take note. Okay, let's head back to the source entry here. Now, what are the package that we need to import here? So based from our package, the only thing I need to install here or import here is the express layout. So to do that, let's add here by typing import express layouts from, so just type this one here. Okay, so right now we're importing this package in here. So take note the reference, and then after we set up our or import our layout, the next thing we need to do now is we need to call that layout within our code here. So first, we need to set up the layout by calling our, oops, this should be app use. Then we need to type here this express layout. This is what we declare here. So this is the, okay, let's label this up. So this is the setup layout. Okay. And then we need to assign the location for our default layouts. So to do that, we need to type app.set and we call the layout and the location of that layout. It's layouts slash layout. Okay. Okay. Now, the next thing is after we set up our layout, the next thing we need to do now is we need to set up our views. So this will be the format that we're going to, or by default by our running code, since we use EJS, so we need to register that in this code. So from here, we need to include also the this is what you call the view engine. Then we're going to set up the EJS here. Okay. Okay, other than that, we need to set up also the location for this one. So since we're using views to recognize our layout, so the next thing is we need to apply the location for that. So to do that, let's first add one more here. So we're going to import this another package, which is the what you call the path. Should be import. Okay, so this will serve as the location for that particular folder that we're going to assign. And then after that, we're going to apply the app set to set up our EJS, the location file for that one. So to do that, we need to call the views as our default folder and the path for that particular folder. So by typing path.join, then we assign this default path here. Okay, comma and views. Okay, so let's examine this one here. Okay, so that's it. So better we need to label this up so that you guys will know what are these content. So here, this is the setting the view engine. And also here, this is the settings for the root path for views directory. Okay, before we going to proceed with the views folder, there's one thing I want to arrange here. So right now, we already set up our layouts and the view engine. Now there's one thing here that I want to change because right now we assign the port within the code. So I want to set up this in a safest way by calling the .and env. So this will serve as our environment. This will be our reference within outside our code, so that any privacy should not be exposed within our code. So let's proceed to that. So to do that, we need to install first the package by typing npm install .env. Okay, so after installing our .env, so we are also need to install the counterpart for that. So let's change our old code here, and then we need to call the .env. Okay, so just typing this npm install this bunch code here, and just add types /.env, then hit enter. So always take note that whenever you install the package for Node.js, make sure you always install as well the counterpart types for that. Okay, cool. Now for our setup, since we already installed our .environment, we need to call that within the root. So within the root, we need to type or add a new file by typing .env. Oops, should be env. Okay. So from our environment here, I'm going to call or assign the server port. Okay, we'll just label this one as the Node.js server configuration. Okay. Okay, after setting up our environment, so within our code, going back here, we need to call that package. So let's say I'm going to import that in here. Import .env from .env. Okay, and then let's initialize that. So from here, I'm going to call the .env.config. Okay, just config only. Okay, so this will initialize our setup in our environment. And now, since we already set up that in our environment, let's replace that in our content. So let's say here, I'm going to move that in here. Okay. So instead of this, the default 3000, I'm going to replace that with the process dot env dot. Okay. So make sure you set up the the environment setup in our env. So for that one, we need to head back here and copy the server port. Then we're going to replace that in here. Okay, so right now, let's try first for this one. Let's type by npm run start. Let's head back here again. Let's check. Oh yeah, okay, so npm run start. Okay, good. So as you can see that now, we already called the process from our .env. So this line here is working. So now let's proceed with the setup with our layout. So let's head back for that. Okay, head back here to our source folder. So within the source folder, we need to create a folder named views. This serves our path to our page, which is the EJS page. So from here, we need to apply the setup that we set up here in our layout. So within the views, I'm going to create a new folder, and we're going to name that as layouts. And within that layouts, let's create a new file. I'm going to call that as layout.ejs. Okay. So for now, I'm just going to write here the default HTML, just the basic one. So HTML. Okay. Going to name this as products. Okay. Okay, just nothing specially, just a normal HTML only. Okay, so right now, this is the layout or the format that we want, because this is the one that we assign here in our entry point. So this is the file of our entry point. But for this to take effect, we need to do some steps here. So the first thing is we need to move this route here to a proper route section. So we're going to create or specify the route location. Also, I'm going to add also the controllers for that. So let's begin by creating a new folder. So within our source, let's create a new folder here named routes. And within that routes, I'm going to create a new file and name that as index.js. .ts. Okay, should be a TypeScript. Okay. Also, from that point here, we're going to create also another folder, and that folder, I'm going to name that as controllers. Okay, and within that controllers, I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to name that as index controllers or controller.js or TS. Okay, so I'm used to types the basic note. So just take note. This is the file for the controller. This is index controller.ts, which means this is a TypeScript file. Okay, good. So now that we set up our target location for our routes, so let's head back to our routes. Okay. Okay, the next thing we need to do here is we need to import our express. Okay. And then from here, I'm going to type this export cons, and I'm going to name that as register. Okay, notice here, in normal or the regular, or if you're working with the regular node, we can simply use that as app. But since we're working now with TypeScript, I just call the equivalent for that. So let's call by typing express that application. Okay, so that's the proper way for that. And we need to call now within this function here. Okay. Now, headed back to our index, this TypeScript here, let's cut this one here. Let's save and move that within here and paste that. Okay. Now, since we're dealing with router or with controller, I want this section here to code within the controller. So I don't want that in here. So for this, to fix this one here, let's head back to our controllers. Okay. So for now, just leave it as this because we're going to prepare the controllers for this one. So head back here, and within this code here, we'll assign that that index routes. So let's begin with import here our request and response. Should be request. This one should be response. From express. Okay. And within this controller here, I'm going to assign that or call the class. I'm going to name that as index controller. And within this controller or this index controller, I'm going to assign a public static and assign that as index. Okay. So the good thing here is that if you are familiar with Node.js, just apply the concept, then replace the thing that you know. Okay. So for that to work, the equivalent request here is we need to pass the actual request from our assign on this section here. So we need to find assign the actual request. Same goes with the response. Okay. So I'm going to add this one with max 20. Okay. And then let's do the normal function here. And this is the time we're going to pass our index. So right now, the only thing we have is our layouts. So let's render that. Okay, that should be it. And the last one, after we specify the content within the class, of course, we need to export that. Okay, good. So right now, this one is okay. So let's head back to our routes. From here, I'm going to import that. Okay, so let's replace that with this one. Okay. And then from here, we can now remove this one, this section here, and call our controller. Or rather, this should be index. Let's check. Okay, just to recall, we only assign the class That's the class for this file. And within that class, we assign this static function here. So this is the function that we need to assign in our routes. So here we assign index as our function request. And that one should be replaced or assigned in here. Okay, so let's cancel this one. Okay, so if everything is okay, we should be able to see this one. So it should be displayed the layouts. So let's head back here. Okay, so there's another thing. Since we already set up the routes, and right now that one is not yet within our main. So we need to call that again within our index.ts. So head back to our index.ts, which is our entry point. And then from here, I'm going to import that. So let's type with import asterisk as routes from okay, or simply just routes. Okay, then from our routes, okay. Okay, so from our routes, we need to apply that or register that in here. So I'm going to call the routes dot register, and we're going to pass our app. Okay, so I'm going to label this one. This is the configure routes. Okay, so question is why register? Now, if you headed back to our routes, we call that in here. So that's the registered information here. And that should be registered also in our index. Okay, so whatever information we pass here will be set up here in this function, will be pull over in this section. Okay, so let's try to run this code now by typing npm run start, then hit enter. Okay, so right now let's try and see if that works. So head back to our browser here and reload. Okay, so right now we're seeing that we have an error here. So what happened? Okay, as you notice, we have an error during running. So what happened here is that in TypeScript, it only converts the JavaScript files. So basically all JavaScript. But for some cases, if it is another type, like instance the EJS, which is not recognized by TypeScript. So what it does is it will not copy to this directory here, to this directory. So as you can see, it only copies these controllers, routes, because the content here, these are all the contents from the TypeScript that we wrote a while ago. So these are the only things or the only files that it can convert and copy to the destination folder here. Now to solve that, we need to apply a certain approach so that whenever we do some compilations or build within the TypeScript, we need to include all those things like the EJS to be exactly. So to do that, we need to install another package. So this package will help us copy all the content within the views. Because right now, if you check here, okay, the only thing that EJS or TypeScript ignores is those within this content here. So for that to work, we need to include some additional package from TypeScript that will recognize the other format and convert that to the or migrate that to the destination folder. So let's install that package. So to begin with, we need to cancel this one here. Let's clear this up. So I'm going to paste this installation for our, okay, so this is the one. Okay, so there's a bunch of code in here that I want to specify. So feel free to post this video and type all this line here, as this will be our requirements for that particular issues. So once you're done, okay, so I'm going to hit enter this one. So as you can see, we have some information here. So which involves the nodemon, the alpha extra. So these are the files from anything that concerns with directory. So this is from the TypeScript itself. So this will help us to migrate our other types of files so that whenever TypeScript will build, all those content will be also included. Okay. While waiting for this one, you can skip this, the after installation, and proceed to the next one. This will take a while. It depends on your internet. So right now, we're working on solving the issues of migrating the other types. So this is a good waiting that at least we know that there's a way of migrating those things. Okay, good. So now that we installed the package for the node, this time we're going to install the equivalent package in TypeScript. So I'm going to paste the line here. Okay, let's move that here. So feel free to pause this video and copy this line. Once you finish, just hit enter. and let it install the equivalent types for the TypeScript. Okay, cool. Now that we are finished installing the equivalent types, let's clear this up. Now, to make that work, okay, we're going to create a new folder within the root. So let's minimize this one here, this one here. Okay, so make sure you're within the root sections. And within the root sections, we're going to create a new folder. And I'm going to name that as tools. Okay. And from here, I'm going to assign a new file. So I'm going to name that as copy assets.ts. Okay. Now, within this content here, I'm going to import the command or this shell command by typing import shell from shells or shell.js. Okay, that's the one. And then what we need to do here, we need to copy by calling shell.cp, stands for copy. Okay, just simply type this one, -r. And the location that we want to copy, simply the source/views. And to the location, we need to forward that to the distribution folder. Okay, so basically that's the one. So let's label this one. Copy all the view templates. Okay, so what it does is this will serve as our copy command to copy all the content during build. So this, once we build, this will copy all the content from our views and forward to our this folder. So for this to work, we need to modify again our package.json. So let's go back to our package.json. Okay, this time, let's focus on these scripts here. Okay, so let's hit enter. First, what we need to do is we need to clean the content. So what it does is this will clear everything within this folder. So I just vim wrap this asterisk. Okay, so feel free to post. You can copy this alone or wait for me to push anything. So as long as you copy the exact word here, and everything will be, which should be fine. Now we can simply change that here to lint. Okay, that should be the one. Okay, so let's check everything. Okay, first we need to clean here the copy asset. then replace that here to lint. So maintain the build. Okay, actually I need to modify the build. Okay. Okay, maybe we need to group that. Let's say here, going to call the TSC. TSC. Okay, this is the compiler. And from our build, let's modify that. npm -o, we call the clean. Okay, so here we are going to call all this script here. Clean, then lint. Next is the TSC. Okay, so just to make sure, lint TSC. Then from here, we need to include the copy assets. Okay, should be that. Okay, so this is the order. So npm run all. First, we need to clean, then execute the lint. So this is the lint here. And we call the TSC and the copy assets, which is this line here. So next. Okay, now from here, instead of restart, let's replace that and move that to depth. Now from our depth, we need to replace that. So it should be npm run -all, and we need to build start. Okay, so instead, this time we're running a depth instead of start. And from our depth, so we need to call the depth. So here, since we installed notmon, we're going to pass notmon and with a watch. And we apply the source location, which is the source folder. Okay, and EJS. Okay, so these are the files that we're going to check within that folder. And then we need to execute that. Okay, we need to execute and type npm run depth start. Okay, that should be it. Okay, so you can type this slowly. Make sure that everything I set up here is correct. Okay, so I guess everything is already in here now. Okay, so let's try if these things works. So let's head back to our. Okay, so once again, feel free to post and copy all the code that I type in here. So there's a bunch of things that we need to modify in our package.json. Make sure you always save. Okay, I forget here. So make sure you always save before you do some changes or run your code. So in here, I'm going to cancel this one. Okay. Okay. So now that we did some modification, a while ago we attempt that by running npm run start. So this time, okay, if you recall, we ran that this npm run start. So since we did some modification, Instead of running that run start, this time I'm going to run that as def to execute this section here. So let's start by hitting enter. Okay, notice here, upon executing here, notice this folder here, all the content was removed because that's the execution we apply in this section here. So line by line, it will execute within this code. And most good thing here, we apply the node. Okay, good. So I guess that one is already working. As you can see, it's already start transferring the first one, which is the TypeScript. And you can see now, we can see the views folder now, or the views content. Okay, so this one is okay. So all the code here is working. Now, let's check our browser. Let's head back to our browser and reload the page. And there you go. So right now, this is working. Okay, so feel free to pause. And after you copy all this code, then let's proceed to the next one. So let's move now to the content. Now for our content. Before we proceed to that, we need to make some changes in our routes. Now, to fix that, I'm going to modify first our controllers in this section here. So right now, it was forward to layouts slash layouts. So since we already declare our layouts, I want to pass this in our, or should I say main. So what it does is main will be the main display in our page, while the layout will serve as a template. All right. So after this one, let's proceed with the template. Now let's set back to our content by clicking this layout.ejs. So in here, I'm going to chop or split this process here. Okay, so this section now, we're going to apply the layout concept in EJS. So let's clean this up from this HTML here, going to replace that with this one. Okay, just going to type first. You can copy as I do this one. Okay, that's for the head, and I can simply copy this one. And this is the main. Okay, so what we do now is we need to, okay, maybe not in partials, going to remove this one here. Okay, it should be main. Okay, so what we're doing right now is we simply recreate this file from the certain location. But before that, make sure we minimize this one here so that we won't be confused of which is the actual file and our actual code. For the actual execution, which is the output, and the actual code here. So make sure we are doing it in the right location. So make sure this time we modify that within the source views, okay, this view section here. So it should be under source. Okay, so now let's let's recreate the files. The first one is we need to create the partials. That's the folder. Then also within the views, I'm going to create a file named main.ejs. Okay. Now let's begin first with our main. Now the structure is, if you are familiar with layouts, always starts with the layout, and then within the layout. Okay, so this is actually, it depends on what process or what ideal of your structure. So in here, I just made it in this way. So layout should be the main layout, and the main should be the content. So here, I'm going to pass this code. So you can copy alone. Just code include. Okay. So I'll be needing here first another file from the partials, and that is the header. Okay. And then within the main, I'm going to pass a div class container. Okay. And I'm going to pass a h1, which is welcome. So make sure we need to enclose this with this code here. Okay, so that's the first one. So okay, this should okay. So right now this is automatically rebuilt because of the node mon. So now let's rebuild this content. So here we need the header, while the layout we need the head. So I'm going to copy this one. And within partials, I'm going to name that as head.ejs and header.ejs. Okay, so these are the partials that we need. Now for the head, I can simply let's simply copy the basic of HTML. So from here, I'm going to type the head. Then going to paste this head tag. So this will be the basic HTML. And okay, I'm going to type the title. So for this one, I'm going to name this as products. Okay. So feel free to post if some codes here that I tend to paste, because there are some common codes that you can feel free to post and type these codes on your own. Then after that, you can continue this next line code here. Okay, so let's complete that. So this is the head. Now this time, oh, I put it in the wrong file. Should be the head. So I'm going to copy this. It should not be in the header, but instead it should be in the head. Okay, so I'm in the head, then okay, so that should be it. Okay, so replace that. That should be on the head. Now let's proceed with the header. Now click the header. Okay, notice how I create this one. So take note, this is from the HTML5 version. So whatever you learn from the HTML5, we simply apply that concept here. So let's continue. So I'm going to call here href. Okay, then the ID logo. Okay, so I just named that as logo. Okay. Then I'm going to name that as products. Okay, so let's review again. from the layouts. Okay, these are layouts. From our main, okay, this should be partials. Okay, this should be partials. And from our partials, this is the head, and this is the header. Okay, so let's wait this section here to finish. Okay, so this one thing, whenever we do some changes here, it will clean up everything from this folder here and rebuild from the very start. Okay. Whenever you or when you're on this process, be very careful that you're working, or if you're working on the location folder. Sometimes you might get confused with this folder and the source, especially if you're not within the TypeScript section. Because like this one, you're doing some design. So be very careful that you need to work that within only this section here and not in this folder here. Okay, so I guess we're already done. So let's head back to our browser and reload. And there you go. So this one is working. Okay. So I think I missed this part here. This should be href. Okay. Okay. Okay, now that we set up our, maybe we need to wait for that first. Okay, now that we set up our first content or rearrange the flow that we want for their layout, the next thing we need to do is we need to extend this one. So by extending the content, my suggest is we're going to create a new file within EJS. I want to create a navigation for this one. So we're going to simply make some typical website. Okay. So while waiting for this one, okay, so that's done. So let's reload this page, and there you go. So that's what I want. Okay, so now let's proceed with the navigation. So head back to our partials, and let's create a new file called nav.ejs. So here we still apply the concept of HTML5 by calling nav, then ul, li, okay, going to break that. Okay, so from our navigation, I'm going to create an href. This should be home. Okay, so I'll just copy this. Maybe I'm going to, okay, like that. And then here, I'm going to name this as login. So this should be login. And here, I'm going to rename that as, or assign that as a sign up. And sign up. Okay, let's save that. So that's the navigation. And we're going to apply that in the header section here. Okay. So somewhere next to this one here, let's call the percent dash include and up. Okay, so that should be it. So let's wait for the nodemon or the compile to finish. Okay, so that's done. So let's reload our page. And there you go. Cool. So this one is okay. Okay, so right now, the next thing we need to do now is we need to apply CSS. To do that, of course, we need to apply some beautification here so that this will be a formal website. Okay, so to do that, let's head back to our source. So should be this source here. And I'm going to create a new folder here and name that as public. So ideally is we're going to pass on the CSS style. So to do that, we need to create a new file and name that as style.css. Now there's a lot of things to copy here. I just paste that just once. Okay. I'm going to paste that as once. Okay, I'm going to scroll down so that you can copy one by one or simply post the video and copy all the contents here. This is from the body, the all content, this is the UL, this is for the header, this is for the logo, this is for the navigation, okay, and this is for the container. And also the header, we have also the job container and a blank. Okay, so that should be the last one. Okay, okay, so right now, okay, so feel free to post this video and copy all the content from the style.css. So very important, now that we set up or create our style.css, the next thing we need to do now is we need to register our public folder. So to do that, okay, so to do that, let's head back to our index.ts here. And maybe we can copy this one here and then paste it here. Okay. So what we do is we need to register the public folder. Okay, this is the okay. As simple as that. So right now, we already registered, oops, sorry. So this should not be like this, but instead I'll be change that to, okay, let's replace that. It should be express dot static. Okay, of course, it should be a static folder. Okay. Let's check this one by one. Join. Okay. Save. This is the seems okay. So this should be, instead of set, replace that to use. Okay, so that should be it. Okay, so right now, okay, so this is working now. So yeah, you can feel free to wait for this one to finish. But as of now, this is the proper way of setting up the folder directory. Now that we set up that, the next thing we need to do now is to register that in our EJS. So to do that, let's head back to our views. Okay, make sure you are within this source folder here, views. Then let's head back to the head section. Okay, it should be here. Now from our head section, let's register that. So what we're going to register is we need to register the style.css. Let's go on for the link. href slash style dot css. Okay, so that should be the one. And for the ref equals to style sheet. Okay, so let's check. Okay, so what we did now is we apply the CSS within the header section or the head section. Okay, good. That's already done. So let's reload our page. Okay, so this is a problem. Okay, let's head back to our code. Okay, this time, let's examine why is it that when I reload this page, it did not take effect. But if you check the view page source, our code is updated. So for some reason, the public folder, this one was never or was not recognized. So if you're going to scan this directory, as you can see, the public folder is not included here, which is required here. So to solve that, let's head back to our copy asset. As you recall, the reason for this not working is because TypeScript only convert those within the it only converts to a JavaScript. So since this is another file which is a different format, so this won't be included as well. Same as with the EJS. So to fix that, we need to apply that in our copy asset. So as you recall, this is the copy format or the copy tool that we create to transfer all those not recognized by TypeScript. So let's head back to this section here and let's copy this section here and let's paste that. So going to name that or change the content to public content. And then from here, I'm going to copy this the the actual folder, which is the public. And save. Okay, so this one's still not reload the okay, it's still not reload. So maybe we should cancel this one. Okay, here is up, then npm run dev, and we'll wait. To make sure that everything is working, make sure you need to observe the content here in the this. So ensure that all the folder will be copied in this directory so that everything that you are setting up will be working as correctly. Okay, so there goes our controller and routes. And there you go. So next is the copy, and the public and abuse. Okay, so I guess everything is here already. So let's head back to our browser and reload our page. Okay, and there you go. So I'm going to move this. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so that's it, guys. So that's, oops. Okay, so this is the, okay, here we go. Okay, so this is how you run EJS using Node and convert that to TypeScript. So if you have some questions, feel free to ask. But for now, we managed to complete the step-by-step process until this layout section here. So on the later part, we will enhance this one and apply all the settings from here. So we'll include the security, the sign up, let's include the login. So everything next from our next sessions. So okay, so let's okay. So on the next section or the next session that we're working, we'll be continue using this template, and we're going to fill out those within the header content. Okay. If you found this video informative, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. And see you guys on the next video series. Cheers!